So the first command we're going to go over today is the copy command. So as you can guess, this is going to copy a file. It's its most basic function, and the way we use this command is we will type cp for copy. Before we do copy, we're going to just list the contents. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use new file. So let's say I want to copy new file, and I need to have another copy of it. So I'm going to do copy new file, and what I'll do is I'm just going to call it new file 2. So nice and simple. I hit enter, and now when I list the contents, we see new file and we see new file 2. So perfect. This did exactly what I needed. I was able to take a copy of an existing file, and it's duplicated. And what I'll do is I'm going to cat new file, and so we see the output there. But now I'm going to cat new file 2, and notice I have the exact same content. So this is perfect. It's just a duplication of the data on the system, and I'm able to give it another file name. I could also move it to another directory if I wanted to, so I'll show you that. So let's say I wanted to take new file 2 and I want to copy that into my temp directory. So I'm going to do copy, I'm going to do new file 2, and I'm going to specify, I'm going to copy it from where I am, but I'm going to put it in my temp directory because maybe that's just where I need it to be. So I do copy, I give it the file name, and now I'm going to give a directory, and what I did is when I hit tab, it auto-filled the / for me, which specifies a directory. And this is important because if I didn't specify or didn't include the /, the copy command would actually try to rename my file and say, well, I'm going to copy it and rename it. And it would say new file 2, the data that's in that file, the text that's in there, is now going to be in a file that's called my temp directory. And that wouldn't be good. That's not what I'm looking for. So since I want to put it in this directory, I end it with a /, a /, and that will tell the copy command I'm actually copying this file into a directory. So I'm going to hit enter, and now when I list my temp directory, and I'm just going to specify new file 2, it autofilled, but when I hit enter to list it, we see that the file's there. And now I'm going to just cat that file, so my temp directory, new file 2. Once again, I have another copy of this file on the system, and it's in a different location. So you can use copy to make a copy in the same directory that you're in, or you can move it to another directory entirely. Just know that when you're copying the file, you're taking the contents and the data within it, and you're duplicating it on the system, meaning if you have a 1 megabyte file and you copy it, now you have 2 1 megabyte files on your system, and it's not reusing the data. It's very important to know that it is another copy of the same data on the system, and it is treated differently. So now that we've seen how to make a basic copy, why would we make a copy? So like I said, just duplicating the data, sure, maybe you have a reason to do that. Putting it in another location, kind of as a backup, sure, that's fine. But another reason why we use the copy command as an administrator is to take a backup of a file before you edit it. So remember, when we edit files, whatever's in that file tells the system how it's going to work. And if you mess it up, you need to be able to undo those changes, and copy is a great way for the way administrators at least will back up a file that's currently working. We can go make edits to that file, and if we really mess something up, we can revert it back because we have the extra copy that hasn't been modified. So I'll give you an example using the sshd config copy file. So I'm just going to list my directory here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a backup of my sshd config copy file. So I'm going to do copy ssh, hit tab to autofill, and now I'm going to do the same thing again, but I'm going to delete the last character, and I'm going to add a simple .bak. And this is just the easiest way that you can make a backup. Most people recognize it as the backup, file extension. On Linux, it's not required, but if you come from a Windows system, you know that typically the last 3 or 4 characters after the dot, that gives you an idea of what type of file it is. In this case, .bak is simply a good way to to realize that you're using or looking at a backup file. So like I said, that's a basic way. And once again, I'm going to show the backup, and what it'll be hard to tell from here, but what we'll do is I'm going to just cat the original one as well. And as we can see, like just judging by the last few lines, we know it's the same. And we already confirmed with the smaller file too. So we're going to trust that it copied everything. This is a longer file. There are other commands to compare, but I don't want to go over that in this video. I just want to show you how we can copy and in this case take a backup. Another thing that I do want to highly recommend, something that I do as an administrator, is we made a backup with the .bak extension, but I typically like to also append the current date. Sometimes you might even do the date and time because, depending on, maybe you're making a lot of changes and you want multiple copies, to go back to just in case one change doesn't work, or maybe changes start affecting each other. You can have different points in time that you're managing on the system to go back to. So what we'll do is, once again, we're going to do the copy ssh config, and rather than just do the .bak, I'm going to go a little further, and I'm going to add an underscore, and this is just to separate it out. So I'm going to follow that up with the 4-digit year, followed by the 2-digit month, and then the 2-digit day of the month. So in this case, it'll be 2023, 10, and 21. So when I do this and I do a listing, notice I have an original backup, but I also have a backup with the date appended to it. And like I said, the reason why I do this is it's almost like a secondary precaution. We have the date here on when the file was last modified. However, let's say you took a backup, and after the backup was taken, somebody went and modified that file and you weren't aware. Maybe you have multiple people working on the system. Adding the date in the file is just a good way for you to verify that, well, this is when I took the backup. It shouldn't have been touched after that. And if you see that the date has been modified on this part of the file, in the listing, then that can give you an idea that somebody may have modified it. Perhaps it was you, maybe it's somebody else, but it'll help you to be extra cautious when reverting back, which causes problems in itself, but it's good for your awareness because you need to be able to trust that a backup file is going to be a good, trusted backup. So that's how you can use the copy command to make copies of files and make backups. And next we're going to go over how to copy entire directories. So the way we're going to copy a directory is we're going to utilize a flag with the command. So in this case, we're going to list out recursively, we'll do my temp directory. And as we can tell, I've got a lot of stuff in here, so I just put this out there just to use this as an example here. So I'm going to try something. I'm going to just copy, and I'm going to do my temp directory. And let's say I'm going to call it my temp directory, but I'm going to add a 2 on the end, right? So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to hit enter. We get an error. Okay, it's telling me -r isn't specified, so it's not going to touch this directory. Copy is meant for files, and in this case, the directory has subdirectories. It has files within it and all those things that belong to that directory. And with copy, we have to specifically tell it we are wanting all of that content to be copied with the directory. If it's empty, then sure, we could just copy the directory itself and it might move over. But whenever we've got content in there, it's not going to do that. So we're going to use the error that it gave us, and we're going to use that. So copy -r. Now I'm going to do my temp directory, and then my temp directory, add a 2, and I'm going to hit enter. So I'm going to list. I now have 2 directories, and I'm going to do a long recursive listing of my temp directory 2, and notice this directory has all the same things that the other one had, I will hit up, I will delete this, and notice the other content is still there. My original content is there, so I now have duplicated an entire directory, which is useful. And so the reason why we do this is maybe as an example, I wanted to duplicate the file structure, right, and the directory structure that I have for that directory. That's one reason why I might duplicate it and then use it for another purpose. So it might have the same structure but different content in it. So that's when copying the entire directory and its subdirectories could be useful. But another way that I use it is to back up an application installation directory. So typically, you'll have a root install path for an application, and whatever that path is, all of your installation files for the application go there. And when you do an upgrade, you're modifying a lot of the content of that directory. And by taking a recursive backup, you stop the application. This is known as a cold backup. You stop the application. You use copy, and this is just one of many ways to do it. But you can do a recursive copy of that application home path, and you can duplicate it on the system. Now, if you have an application that's several gigabytes in size, you're going to duplicate several gigabytes in size, so be aware of that. For file constraint concerns. But typically, it's a fast way to say, okay, take everything that I had, give me another copy, and when you do the upgrade, if you mess up, it gives you a quick alternative to say, let me just get rid of what I've done, and in case of emergency, I can just move that directory back to its original name, and the application can be started and typically function normally. So once again, you're not backing up one file, you're backing up a directory and its contents, so all of the files there, and that's very useful to ensure things keep working on the system.